Hello. Today, since it didn't work out yesterday, I'm going to show you how to make a snagging rig, and hopefully we're going to snag some suckers. The river's a little muddier than I expected it to be, so I can't see them, and I don't really know this stretch of the river. I haven't been here in like a year, and the river changes every year when it floods, so I can't guarantee we actually successfully snag any suckers. But basically the concept of a snagging rig, it's a piece of line with several treble hooks tied onto it and a sinker on the bottom. You cast it across a channel or an area where fish are stacked up and you jerk it through. It's legal, at least in my state, to snag certain species of fish. Suckers are one of them. Suckers, carp, gar, shad, stuff like that. Usually it's legal to snag trash fish like that. It's not legal everywhere though. But you can use this to take just about any species of fish. It's best when the species of fish you're after is making a spawning run up a stream or a river, or they're just heavily stacked, like below a dam or something like that. That's really where this comes into play. If you're wanting to be illegal, it is very effective on walleye and steelhead and salmon as they make their runs. You can use it for other things, white bass when they make their runs. You can use it for a wide variety of species of fish, but it's going to be illegal to do it. Another use for a snagging rig is if you have a chicken wire fish trap or a set line or something that is tied off underwater, or like with the fish trap you just chucked it in. You can use this to retrieve it. You can snag your trap back. And so usually I try to keep a couple tied up in my tackle bag. I'm going to show you how to tie one. Now, you're going to need some things, so go to the store before you do this. Some strong line, 40 or 50 pound. I use heavy gear when I'm snagging. I like the swivels to tie on the top, so that way you can attach it to your rod. Some treble hooks. Number 2 size treble hooks are decent for this. If you're snagging some giant carp or gar or something, you might want to go to a bigger size. And then you're going to need a sinker to tie on the bottom. I like these cylindrical, like these are drifting weights. I like these. Anything works. If you are trying to make a light rig to snag, like let's say shad that are suspended, to snag them for bait, a lighter sinker is going to be more beneficial to you because it's not going to sink as fast. You're going to be able to stay where the shad are as you jerk it through. In deep water, obviously a bigger sinker. For most applications, about a 1/2 or 3/4 ounce seems to work pretty good. I don't really think it matters that much, but I got 1/2 ounce sinkers. Now, if you're going to get into snagging seriously, it's best to snag with a heavy rod. In this case, this is my snagging rod. I also use it for catfish, but it's my dedicated snagging rod. It's a cheap ass Ozark Trail Walmart grit stick. It's a 7-foot and it's pretty stiff. The tip is pretty stiff and thick, and it's a strong rod. The reel I have on it has seen better days. I'm gonna get a new one eventually, and I have like 60-pound braided line on there. Heavy gear when you're snagging, because this is a snagging rig, so anything that's in the water you're liable to snag. Turtles, fucking logs, and it's best to do this in a spot that has minimal structure. If there's a bunch of logs in the water, you're going to lose a lot of treble hooks, which is fine because they're cheap and they're easy to steal. But yeah, anyway, let's get to tying this up. First thing we're going to do, you're going to need a knife too, is we're going to cut about about 3 or so feet of this 50-pound line off. Oh, you punk motherfucker. Alright. Strong line. It can be cheap. It doesn't matter. And then we're going to take a sinker out, and we're going to tie that onto the bottom with whatever knot we want. Doesn't really matter. it's best to not tie the best knot on the sinker, because sometimes the sinker will get hung up and you can pull it, the sinker comes off, but you get your treble hooks back. And you don't even have to use a sinker. You can use an old fucking spark plug or a rock. Alright. Get to this. That fixed up. Something like that. Alright. Somebody's kayaking right by me. Okay. Anyway, we're going to take 5 or 6 of these treble hooks out of the box. 3, 4, 5. 5 or 6 is usually what I use for this. And then we're going to tie them on the line. I have a phone call, but I'm not answering that shit. And we're going to tie the first one about 6 inches up from the sinker, something like that. And then we're going to tie all the rest about 3 inches apart all the way up the line. The knot that I use for this is called the knotless knot. It just seems to work for this. You put your line through your hook, you know, my sinker's down here. You put your line through the eye of your hook like that. And then you're just going to wrap down the shank of the hook 6 or so times, 5 or 6 times. Then you're going to stick the line back through the eye of the hook. Something like that. And pull that tight-ish. Something like that. We're going to do that 5 other times. And we're going to put them about 3 inches apart. Something like that. You can use whatever knot you want for any of this, though. It doesn't matter. This is just how I tie the snagging rig. Do this quick as fuck. I like the knotless knot because it's quick. And it keeps all the treble hooks like aligned correctly down the line. Got 3 on there. Number 4. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Last one. Okay. There is what we have. And our sinker on the bottom. Now we're going to take one of these swivels out of the package and tie it on top. I like to put a swivel here. I'll explain why in a minute. Again, you can use whatever fucking knot you like. With this heavy line, it's hard to tie certain knots. So usually I just use a simple fisherman's knot, old school. We run that through the little hole on your swivel, wrap down like 4 or 5 times, and stick it back through that hole. It's not the best knot, but anything else is hard to tie with this 50-pound line, so yep, there we go. And then we're just going to trim that little tag off like it ain't no thing. And there is our completed snagging rig. Now, on the end of my snagging rod, I keep a heavy-duty snap. That way I can quickly detach this, because I don't want to walk around with this on my rod. Absolutely not. And now we are ready to attempt to snag some fish. Alright, about to show you how to use this now. If you can see the fish, you can cast it past them and then reel it into them. And this is a downside to the snagging rig. It gets tangled, it snags everything. So, what we're going to do, let out a little bit of line. And then we're going to cast this across this river, and I'll show you what to do. Alright. Now, all we're going to do is every 10 or 20 seconds, we're going to give it a jerk. And you'll be surprised if the fish are in the area that you're doing this thick, how often something gets snagged. Like I said, this reel's seen better days. That's the downside of the snagging rig. Is anything in the water, rocks, logs, and snag them. And the river's flowing a little more than it usually does, so my half-ounce sinker isn't doing so well holding the bottom. But cast it a little upstream, and every once in a while, give the rod a jerk. I'm fishing a little faster than I normally would because I can see it drifting downstream. And I don't want to end up in the shallows where I'm likely to get it hung up. But normally, about every 20 seconds or so. And sometimes you can feel a bump on the line. If you feel that, jerk it. It's liable to be a fish hitting your line. I really want to snag something on camera to prove this works. It works. Probably should have went with a heavier sinker though. Tied two of them bitches on. And it'd probably be better to go up by the dam to do this, but I wanted to be in the trees so that way I'm private when I'm filming. Yeah, like I said, this river's kind of rocky, so I am snagging the rocks a lot. Cast it way upstream. Work my way down. Like I said, normally I like to do this a little slower, but the river's flowing too fast. Oh, that was something there, but I missed it. Downstream wasn't a good idea. It's going to get caught up, I can tell. A lot of the times when it gets caught up, you can just pull. I use such heavy line while I'm snagging that I can usually pull it out. Oh. Oh yeah, see? There you go. Now I'm up in the tree. boy. Downstream's a bad idea. Needed a bigger sinker now. If I had a bigger sinker, this wouldn't be no thing, but I don't think there's any fish that are in here heavily. I would have snagged them already. Works best where there's a high concentration of fish. Yep. There I am in the rocks. I pull it out though. Anyway, before I lose these treble hooks in this perfectly good snagging rig, I've demonstrated enough. It works if the fish are stacked up where you're doing it at. Just got to find where the fish are stacked up. Now I'm going to show you how I carry the snagging rig. Let's adjust this up a little bit so y'all can see my pretty little eyes. Anyway, obviously, the snagging rig snags things. If you just throw this in your tackle box, or heaven forbid, you get careless and just toss it in the bed of your truck or in the bottom of your backpack, you're going to have a mess. Ask me how I know. So, you can put it in the box the treble hooks came in, but how I like to carry this, I don't like to ever have it on my rod when I'm walking into or out of a spot. Even if I'm snagging completely legal trash fish, rough fish as they're called, I don't want to be seen with that on my rod. You're inviting trouble. So you can put it in the box the treble hooks came in. I really like old chewing tobacco tins though, and I'll just roll it up around a couple fingers carefully, and then I will put it in there. Seems to be a pretty good way to keep your snagging rig from creating problems. And then you can put that in your backpack or your tackle box and have it when you need it. And it's pre-tied up, ready to go. If you're snagging an area with a lot of rocks and logs, you might want to touch up those treble hooks with a stone every once in a while. But that's it. That's a snagging rig. Eventually I'll show you it working in it, like probably a short or something. But that's a survival fishing technique for you. If you use it at the right time, it can put a lot of food on the table. I used to snag carp for dog food all the time, and shad for bait. I've snagged steelhead and walleye back when I was a dirty little poacher. I won't do that anymore though, promise. But yeah, there's your snagging rig. I've used it to retrieve fish traps and stuff too. It's really good for that. If you don't want to tie off cord if you can avoid it. You just yeet a fish trap out into a pond. You can, if you like throw it out towards a landmark, you can remember and you can cast in that direction and snag your fish trap back. It works really well for that. Yeah, snagging rigs.